Hey, what's going on everyone? Greg here with RC Driver, and we have been doing a lot of reviews lately. You know what? It seems like this channel has kind of turned into just all reviews, and I really haven't been helping you guys. I mean, I help you guys in those reviews. I try to give you as much information as possible so you guys can decide if that vehicle's right for you. But there's a whole other part to RC that, I really haven't touched on lately. And, I used to do the Get Into RC video series, and I'm still going to do the Get Into RC video series. But there's more to helping you guys out that I want to cover. And so I'm actually going to start like a new series here. And this came about the other day when I was actually driving the Tenacity T. I've been having an absolute blast with this truck. I can't tell you how many battery packs I've run through it, but I was doing some runs on the asphalt, and that's when it finally happened. Something let go in the drivetrain on this thing. Actually, I know what it is. It's the center diff. The gears inside the center diff blew out. But that basically got me thinking, like, I got to go and diagnose this thing. And some of you guys out there, you may not know how to go and diagnose it. And I figured, why don't I start this series so I could show you guys, how to diagnose different problems of your vehicle. And so I came up with the series name, Fix My RC. And what I'm going to do in this series is I'm going to go and break things down. I'm going to help you discover problems that you might have with your vehicle, how to go and diagnose it, how to go and fix it, things to look for. I think it'll really help a lot of people out. We do get a lot of questions of, what's wrong with my car? And so I think this video series of Fix My RC is going to help a lot of people. And what I'm going to do actually in this first one is, since my drivetrain broke on this vehicle, I'm going to talk about drivetrains. And I'm going to break it up into different parts. And I'm going to go over little areas of the vehicle. I tried to actually go and do a video on just the drivetrain and going in and diagnosing all the different parts. And I created this long video, and I got to the editing process. I'm like, this is way too much. You guys aren't going to watch this whole video trying to find what's wrong with your specific car. So I'm going to break things down a bit differently. And so like I said, we're going to start off with the drivetrains. Then maybe I'll go to steering and maybe electrical problems and maybe nitro engine problems. And we'll just see how this thing develops. But I want a series to help you guys fix your RC machines. And I want you to do it. It's easy to do. And I'm really happy that I get to help you do that. All right, so the first thing I want to do in this Fix My RC series, actually what I'm going to call it is Fix My RC Drivetrain and Transmission. Part 1 is talk about the wheel nut. Yep, something simple as a wheel nut. It's a great place to start in diagnosing a problem with the driveline. All right, now there's a bunch of different types of wheel nuts. Let me start there. I went and collected a bunch of them that I have here. Now this is a standard 7mm nut. Now there's a bunch of different types of wheel fasteners. There's 17mm, there's the 7mm, there's 8mm. But the wheel nut basically is a cause for a lot of problems for people. And it can back off. And once it backs off, that could create a number of other problems. So first, the wheel nut by itself being loose is a problem. You don't want your wheel to wobble. A wobbling wheel could go and cause a number of other issues. I'm going to go over 2 of those today, but it could cause havoc on your bearings. It could cause havoc on your drive shafts. But the 2 problems I'm going to talk about today are the wheel, actually 3 things: the wheel hex, and the wheel pin, and what a loose wheel nut will do to those parts. And to start off, you should check the wheel nuts often. They do take a lot of abuse, so get yourself a good nut driver or even the cross wrench that came with your kit and check the wheel nuts often. You'll notice a lot of wobble in the wheel. If the wheel does go and back off, that wheel nut backs off, you'll notice some wobble there. Now, wobble could be caused in other areas as well, but that's one thing to look at. And if you want to really diagnose if it's just a loose wheel nut, what you try to do is hold the stub axle, either push on the drive shaft and just wobble that wheel, and take a look at the stub shaft on the other side and make sure the wheel isn't wobbling and the nut staying in place. So that's how you know you have a loose wheel nut. Now, when you do have a loose wheel nut and you keep on driving it, what could happen next? Well, you could lose the drive pin, the pin that goes into the hex that keys it to the axle. What will happen when you lose that is maybe the car will lose power. If it's a 2-wheel drive vehicle, it just won't have the same power, and that's because the axle is just spinning in the wheel. The other problem it could cause, like on a 4-wheel drive vehicle, it could start to pull to one side, and a little bit of loss of power as well. So that's when you know you may have lost a wheel pin. And what you do, back off the wheel nut, you take your wheel off, and if your hex is just spinning there or slide it off and there's no pin there, you know you need to replace it. Or maybe that pin's sheared. That's another issue that happens because of too much power. So that's another thing just to throw out there at you guys. And now finally, I want to talk about the wheel hex itself. And that's another problem I've seen a lot of people have, and it happens a number of different ways. Either that wheel nut can back off and now you have some slop in there and the wheel starts to spin on the wheel hex, which actually happened to this vehicle a little bit when I was losing the wheel, if you saw the review on it. Or the other thing that could happen is just too much power in the vehicle. If you have a plastic wheel hex and of course the plastic wheel, the hex could start to spin inside the wheel. I mean, the hex is a plastic. It's a soft plastic on many vehicles, so it could start to strip through the wheel. Basically, my suggestions to combat that are use a aluminum wheel hex. Aluminum wheel hexes are great upgrades. It is now a firm piece of metal that is supporting the wheel. So there's less likely of a chance of that wheel to spin on that hex. The other thing obviously is to make sure that the wheel nut is tight, and that should hopefully prevent the wheel from spinning on the hex. Now back to the nuts themselves, the one thing I do want to talk about are the different styles that are out there, and this even applies to like the 17mm hexes. Now, the specific type of wheel nut that I like to recommend is a flange nut with a nylon insert, such as this one right here. So it looks like a standard nut. It has this little flange that gives the wheel extra support, and then it has a nylock in the center of it that helps to grab onto the axle. Now, if you can find it, an even better wheel nut is one that is knurled on the backside. It has like these little teeth on it that grab into the wheel, and those are the best ones to secure any type of wheel. Now, again, all these different types of vehicles, they have all different types of wheel nuts on them, so you really have to go out and search for them. If you do have an A-scale vehicle with a 17mm nut on it, they do have nylocks in those type of nuts, and they do have serrated ones, and I believe there is even a combo version that is serrated and does have a nylock on it. It seems to be ringing a bell that there is a company that makes those out there. But what it comes down to is you really need to check that often. It's just part of maintenance on an RC vehicle. It's something you should look out for. All right, so that wraps up today's specific topic of Fix My RC Transmission and Drivetrain. Next time, I'm probably going to go and talk to you about the bearings in the hub. Yep, I'm just going to break everything down piece by piece so you guys can find the right video that applies to your specific problem. If you haven't done so yet, please click that subscribe button, the notifications bell, throw the video a like if it helped you out. If you have a question or comment, please throw it in the section below. When you have some time, head over to rcdriver.com, and after that, go drive something.